morning, everybody. Let's try that again. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So much better. That sounded like a Monday good morning, the first one. I'm Janice Lapina, and I'm with our NEO LaunchNet on campus. And I want to welcome you to our FEBE morning. Thank you all for coming. We're always here every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And our sponsor is Dunkin' Donuts from across the street. He also has a location on 58 and at Camp's Corners. So I am going to go ahead and turn things over to Ryan Roche. And he's going to talk about retirement planning for small business owners. So thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Can you hear me all right? Good, great. Thank you. Like she said, I'm Ryan Roche. I am with a financial planning firm called Roche Wealth Management of Raymond James. Very creative and unique. I blame it on my dad. He started it a while ago, came up with the name. We're going to go with it. Today I want to start with a little bit of a story. We're going to get into 3 different topics today. I'm going to try and cover them as time allows. But I want to start off by telling a story that I think is pretty indicative of what we get a lot of in our office. And it kind of goes like this. My father, who's been in this business for a long time, used to work for National City Investments. Okay, so he was in a big office downtown with all the fancy people running in and out of the bank. And one day, one of the EVPs comes into the office, sits across the desk from my father, and my dad's licking his chops saying, all right, finally I'm going to get one of these big shot banker guys to invest some money with me. It's about time. And the guy says to my dad's name's Jim, he says, Jim, I make a lot of money here. I've been making good money for a while now. But a couple kids, $500,000 house, vacations, college, just married off my daughter. I just haven't saved as much money as I should have saved. I'm 55 now. I want to retire when I'm 60. So here's my plan. I'm going to give you some money. I want you to invest it aggressively. That way I can catch up. And then I'll retire when I'm 60 and I'll be good. My dad says, okay, good, we can do that. Let me ask you a question though. If that doesn't work, are you prepared to work for the rest of your life? No, right? We're going to talk a bit about saving money today. The old boring saving money, right? That's going to be a big part of what I talk about. It is the key to getting rich, all right? You could be born rich. You could use somebody else's money and be aggressive and get rich. But the easiest way, take some patience, is to save, okay? Make your money, save your money. We're going to get into that. I want to tell you real quick a little bit about us. I think it's important that you know who's talking to you. My dad and I are CFPs. Who's seen the CFP commercials with the DJ guy, and he sits down across the room and he goes, don't worry, I'm a DJ. Well, Certified Financial Planner is a designation that we get that we like to think separates ourselves from the competition. There are many of us out there. There are financial advisors all over the place, and I'm not saying others are bad. There's a lot of good ones out there. CFPs are best explained with the 4 E's, they call it, right? Education is the first E. It's voluntary, number 1, all right? So anybody who goes through the CFP program, gets the designation, has very likely done that on their own so that they can learn, make themselves smarter, make themselves more informed in order to hopefully translate that to the client relationship, all right? The exam, anybody who's familiar all with the financial industry has probably heard a little bit about the CFP exam. It's a terribly difficult test. You put yourself through the education piece, you got to go take this exam. When I sat for the exam, 62% of people that took it passed it. I think there was about 2,000 people that sat that particular week and passed it. It's pretty tough. The average, and over like 25 years since the program started, is like in the high 50% of people passing it. So if you're dealing with a CFP, you're probably dealing with somebody who's taken the time to learn this stuff because they wouldn't be able to pass the test otherwise. The 3rd E is experience. It's pretty obvious. You need to at least have, in CFP terms, it's 3 years of experience. In our business, one could argue that the more experience you have, the better. And the last E is ethics. You might hear a lot in the news about the term fiduciary lately in the new Department of Labor's rule. Well, prior to all that, the CFP established that they were going to hold their designees to the fiduciary agreement well prior to all this, meaning if I make a recommendation for you as your advisor, I have to put your interests first no matter what. Meaning, if it's a commissionable piece of business, I sell you a product, you need to know that it needs to be the best thing for you. And if there's something else out there that will do the same thing and cost less, I need to offer you that one. Okay? So just so you know, when you see the designation out there, I think it's important to know. Both my father and I are CFPs. Kristen, who is on our team to help us look better, she's a senior registered assistant, which means she's licensed. She's passed the Series 7, if anybody knows what that is. She can buy stocks, sell bonds, and all that stuff. She really brings our team together. All right? Now, enough about us. I'm going to move on here. We're going to talk about 3 different things today. I'm going to spend some time about retirement plan options for small business owners. This is not going to be an end-all, be-all presentation. We could be here for weeks if I get into that. But I'm going to touch on 3 very simple ones that if you're a small business owner yourself, you should at least very closely look into doing one of these things if you don't do them already. Succession planning and insurance, risk management, and protecting the savings. And then at the end, if I have enough time, we're going to get to how do we generate income off of the money that we've saved over all the time. All right. First of all, let's do a little math. We're going to get a little interactive here. Who in here would like, if you're not a millionaire, if you are a millionaire, let's talk. Who in here thinks that if they had $1 million when they retired, that's going to be enough money for them to live out the rest of their life on? Show me quick hands. $1 million good enough? Right? I think $1 million is a fair amount. I mean, it gets smaller every day with inflation. You can get there in a lot of different ways, right? You can be this guy. Wheel and deal. Use other people's money. Leverage. You can be this guy. He might have more than $1 million. But patience. Invest in strong, secure companies. Buy and hold policies. You know, I'm not saying which one's right or which one's wrong. I'm just saying understand what your style is. And then I only saw a couple hands go up with $1 million, so really, maybe for you guys $1 million isn't enough. I'm going to give you an opportunity to start your nest egg right now by giving $100,000 to the person who can answer that first question for me the closest. How much will $1 million buy me in 20 years, assuming 2% inflation starting today? And goods and services, what's $1 million going to be worth in 20 years, 2% inflation? Throw out some numbers for me. Closest one gets $100,000. You could be off $100,000. I'm still going to give it to you. Come on, a couple numbers.
500.
500,000? 860. More? 100,000, you guys. You're going to blow it. How much? 700. Last chance. 750. 368. 560. 672. Who said 700? Get my checkbook out.
All right.
100,000? You got it. Next question for another 100,000. If $1 million is only going to be $673,000, then what do I need? What is $1 million actually in 20 years then? Throw out some numbers real quick. 20 years, 2% inflation. How much do I actually need to have in order to really be $1 million? Is it $1.2 million? $2 million? Throw them out, a couple of them for me. I'm giving away a candy bar now.
1.4.
1.4? 1.1? 1.486, Mr. Corpus. Very good. And he's a good golfer, too.
Don't play golf for money with him.
Only when I'm playing with Brian. So really $1 million. You want to be a millionaire, really, you need $1.5 million. I mean, wrap your head around that, okay? The last question, and this is the one that I really think is the eye-opener for people. If you have $0 today and you want to get to that $1.486 million, let's assume you get 7% annual growth, okay? Which I think is pretty aggressive, but 20 years, if you're young, you can put it in the market and get a pretty good return. How much money do you need to save per month to get to that 1.486? Throw out a couple, just a few quick numbers for me. 1,500?
3 grand.
3 grand? Anyone else? 3,200. Brad's seen this presentation before, it's not fair. I'll give him a candy bar anyway. 3,200 bucks a month. Who saves $3,200 a month in this room? That's pretty tough, right? So I got news for you people who didn't raise your hand when I said $1 million was going to be enough. You want more than that? You're not saving $3,200 a month? I hope you got a different plan. There's a lot of ways to get there. You've got to save. I can't emphasize that enough. It's the best way to get rich, okay? You can come up with the greatest ideas, sell your business, all these other things, but you got to save your money. I'm going to try and tell you some ways today that you can do that in the most tax-efficient manner for your business. I like this quote from the Millionaire next door. It matters less how much more you make than what you do with what you already have. Save your money. I'm going to give 2 scenarios today because as we walk through this stuff, I want you to be able to kind of relate this either to yourself or to people that you know, okay? Tom, he owns a landscape company. Maybe he started it when he was 25 years old. He does about $150,000 in total revenues a year. You know, he does snow plowing in the winter and all that stuff. At the end of the day, he brings home 80 grand after he pays his insurance and his equipment leases and all that stuff. He's got 3 seasonal employees, some college kids that he hires in the summertime to help him out. Mary, she's a consultant. She worked for a Fortune 500 company for 25 years. She's an expert at what she does, and she has some intellectual property that she's using with one other partner of hers to consult. They're bringing in $900K a year. This, by the way, these are 2 clients of mine. I stretch the truth just a little bit, but this is pretty close to, I've seen this. Mary and her partner, they got about 900 grand coming in a year. They do pretty well. She's 55 years old. She takes home 300K of that, and they got 1 full-time admin who keeps up on things for them, all right? I'm going to relate back to these 2 different people as we walk through these scenarios. A couple things on retirement plans. I'm not going to read off of this. If you guys want this, I can send it to you. Feel free to write it down, take a picture, do whatever you want. I'm going to talk about 3 different plans today. Simple IRAs, you probably heard of them. SEP IRA, you probably heard of that too. And a Safe Harbor 401k. You probably heard of all 3 of them. If you're not using one, think about it, okay? First of all, a simple IRA stands for Simple Incentive Match Plan for Employees. It's called simple because it's simple. It costs essentially nothing to set up. As long as you have 100 or fewer employees, you can set one up. And you don't have another plan, all right? You can't have 2 plans and have a simple. The trick is the most money you can put aside is $12,500 this year. It usually goes up, it's indexed every year, okay? The IRS says, and basically your retirement plans all work around the tax code. The IRS says, listen, we'll let you put aside $12,500 a year, tax deferred. It will come off of your income, right? It's a deduction. So if you made 100 grand this year, but you put 10,000 into your simple, you only get taxed on 90 of it, and that 10 grand goes into your retirement account and grows tax deferred until you take it out at age what? 59 and a half, right? It's the first time you take it out without penalty. But we'll let you do that. But if you have employees working for you, you got to let them in on the game too. All right? So you either got to match 3% of what they put away, or you got to put 2% flat for what they make. But they got to be they have to be eligible employees. So for those of you in here that have high turnover or hire somebody every now and again or part-time people, this is the good, I don't want to call it a loophole, but this is what you want to look for in the simple and the SEP plan too, I'll get to in a second. Because if they don't work for you and make $5,000 in any 2 of the preceding years, let's say they only work, you get 1 person 1 year, you got a summer intern that comes to work, and then next year you turn over and you got a new summer intern. You don't have to contribute for those people. They're not eligible at that point, okay? So essentially the IRS is saying, hey, put aside some money for yourself. You won't pay taxes on it. It will grow tax deferred, all right? SEP plan, Simplified Employee Pension. Well, let's go back 1 second real quick. Back to our scenarios. We've got Tom and we got Mary. A simple plan will probably work pretty well for Tom. He makes, really at the end of the day, he takes home 80 grand a year, remember? So he's probably not going to be able to save 40 of it. So that $12,000 limit or $12,500 limit might not be too constrictive for him. I mean, frankly, if you make 80 grand and you can save $12,500 over the year, you're doing a great job, right? You'll probably be well off at the end. Tom should look into this plan. In the summer, he brings in college kids to help him do some work. He probably turns them over. You know, they're not eligible, all right? So he's going to reduce his taxable income and put aside money for himself, and it's free. Moving on, SEP plan. By the way, if you have questions, throw your hand up, interrupt me. There's a microphone, we'll pass it around. Simplified Employee Pension Plan. Now, you can contribute a bit more to a SEP plan, but there's a catch, right? The IRS says, listen, if you're going to put aside 25% of your income because you're doing pretty well now, you're older, more mature, you've started a business, maybe like our friend Mary, who's killing it. If you're going to put aside 25% of your own cash, you got to do that for the people that work for you too, that are eligible. All right? So we have people like this who come into us and they've started doing pretty well for themselves and they're getting closer to retirement, so they're really wanting to save more. And we say, hey, look, if you can afford to put 50 grand away, let's do it. Do that 10 years in a row and then do the compounding interest on that. See how that works out for you, right? But if you've got employees that work for 3 out of the preceding 5 years from you full time, you got to contribute the same to them. So you got to watch out for that. Because if you've had people working for you for a year, you open a SEP plan, they still work for you 3 years later, you got to start contributing for them. And if you're putting 20 or 15, 20, 25% of your income away, and they make 30 or 40 grand a year, all of a sudden you got to put 20, 25% away for them. That that can add up pretty quick. So you're going to want to work with a CPA or an advisor, at least somebody to help you keep track of all this stuff. But again, if you're a sole proprietor or a partnership with no employees and you make good money and can sock away 25, 35, 40 grand a year, set yourself up a SEP plan. It will reduce your income, you'll pay less tax up front, you get tax-deferred growth as it sits in the account and grows. You just can't touch it until you're 59 and a half without paying a 10% penalty on it. All right? Any questions about either one of those? Again, I'm not going to go through bullet by bullet on them. I don't like reading stuff. But if you want this or you have questions, let me know. 401k plan. Everybody in here has probably heard of a 401k. A safe harbor 401k is just a little bit different. A safe harbor allows you to avoid compliance with non-discrimination testing, meaning, go back to that SEP thing, if I put aside 20% for myself, I got to put aside 20% for you too. You can get around that in a 401k plan. You can't put aside as much for yourself. You can only do $18,000. If you're over 50 years old, you can put another 6 on top of that, so 24 grand a year. That's a lot, right? But the eligibility requirements are way easier for employees. They got to be 21, and after 1 year of service, they're eligible. So if you got anybody who's over 21 and works for you for a year, then you got to allow them to participate in the 401k plan. That's great for them, by the way. It's an incentive for them to hang around. I can build up money in the work 401k plan, put my own money away, reduce my taxable income just like you're doing. But you have to either match them 4%, which can add up, or put 3% across the board for all the employees, right? So even if they don't put any money in, you got to put 3% of their income in, which can be a lot. But $18,000 a year in annual deferment, do that for 20 years, folks. Get 5, 6, 7% conservatively in returns, and you'll be doing all right. If you have a small business, I'll say this a lot, and you are not doing something like this, even if you've got an IRA on the side, and you're putting your $5,000 or $6,000 away in that, that's good too, if that's all you can afford. If you start to get to the point where you want to save more money, you should look into one of these. You can set these up yourself. This isn't even a plug to come and see a financial advisor. These are simple to set up. Now, a 401k does cost a little bit. You got to get an attorney to put a plan together for you, a plan document, and you have to pay somebody to administrate it for you so that the IRS gets all of their documentation each quarter. It's a little bit more costly. If you've got a number of employees, 10, 15, 20 employees, you're making money, that might be the idea. If you only got a couple, you're not making a lot of money, a 401k plan can get expensive. I mean, writing a check for $2,500 a year for somebody to administrate your plan, which is common, is a lot for a lot of people. I get that, but it's something to consider. Any questions on the plans? Yes, sir.
How do you set that up? Is there a website to go to or see how?
If you want to set it, which one?
Not the 401k, but just the biometric surgery.
I'm not completely familiar with, say, like Fidelity or TD Ameritrade's platform, but I imagine that somewhere in there that there's a way for you to pull up that document and fill it out. You don't even, when you set up a simple plan or a SEP plan, you don't even need to file that document. It's a one-page back and front document. You set up the plan with the people who are employees and participating. You sign it and you keep it on file. You don't even send it into the IRS. That's how easy it is to set up. You got to have it in case they come back to you, next tax year and they audit you and they say, hey, wait a minute, you didn't report all your income. You knocked off 10 grand for this SEP. Well, you got to show them that you actually have a SEP. But it's that easy. Now, where the money goes once you set up the plan, you've got to have an account set up for that. You can do that with those guys too. I mean, go on, any of the online brokerages will do it for you. And then you got to pick your investments. And you'll pay for that one way or another on those sites. Or you can come into a full service brokerage like Raymond James or any of the other ones. And this is mostly what we do for people. We help direct them and set up their plan for them. And then more importantly, help direct the investments afterward. All right, good question. Anybody else? 20 minutes. All right, moving on. So that's saving your money, basically. In summation, save. If you don't take anything from this, I hope you get that. The next part is a little bit more fluid. Yes, sir.
Before you go on, if you continue to work beyond the normal retirement age, should you continue with one of these plans? And for how long should you continue?
You can continue to put money into those plans. How long is a personal decision that you should work through with an advisor or CPA. I mean, how much money do you need? If you have enough money to live off of already, but you're still working because you're healthy, you like to work, well, you got two choices. Spend the money or save the money, right? If you're saving it and you're not going to spend it, you got to get into this next part we're talking about who you're going to leave it to. Whether you're going to leave it for family or friends or whatever. But that's something that you work with an advisor on to say, hey, look, how much of this should I continue to save? And at some point, when you're 70, you have to start taking money out of those. It's required. You got required minimum distributions. So at that point, the money starts coming out to you whether you like it or not. And then you can spend it, give it away, or just put it in another account.
But you can continue to contribute into it even though you are taking it out after 70 and a half.
After 70 and a half, you can't keep putting into it.
You can or cannot?
Cannot. The government doesn't want us building up huge piles of wealth and passing them on to people. That's essentially what it comes down to. Okay, so you've worked your tail off for the last 20 years. You're Tom or you're Mary, and you've had a simple or a SEP or a 401k plan, and you've built up a nice little nest egg for yourself. Now you got to understand how to protect it, right? This gets a little bit more complicated, and every situation is different, but you should be aware of some of the techniques. So I just want to cover a couple of them. Now everybody's heard of insurance, and where's our insurance people in the room, right? You probably had a conversation with your insurance agent at some point about life insurance, but I want to kind of lay out a situation with Tom and with Mary to help better illustrate why some of this planning might be important, okay? So Tom's a landscaper. Now he's 55 years old. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he's had his retirement plan all set up, and he's built up a $600,000 nest egg. He's got 2 kids who are in high school getting ready to go to college. His wife, who's a little younger, has gotten used to the lifestyle. She doesn't work. She drinks wine during the afternoon and posts on Facebook all the things she eats. We like talking. She's nice. She's friends with everybody. He drives his truck off a cliff and dies. He didn't have any insurance. He's got his retirement plan. After the grieving process, she'll work through all the documentation and probably be the beneficiary on his retirement plan, and she'll get that money, right? Hopefully, she'll use that for good use, put the kids through college and that sort of thing. But how far is $600,000 going to go when you've got 2 teenage kids who are about to go to college? You know, you're still paying their room and board and everything else and all their expenses, and you don't have a job, all right? If he had life insurance, just a term plan, maybe you should get $500,000 or $1 million, death benefit cash free, okay? Now at least she would be able to have enough money to fall back on and take some time and figure out exactly how she's going to adjust to a new life, right? And you'd think, oh, she's got $1 million, this is going to be easy. You start paying for kids' colleges, weddings, and all that, and just writing those checks, that money goes fast, right? What if, through his business, he took out key person insurance on himself, and he had life insurance? His wife gets his retirement plan, gets his life insurance, and then when he dies, his key person plan through work pays out his wife. Because if he doesn't have it, what does she do with the business? Now, Tom drives the truck and rides the mowers and does the raking and all that stuff. What is that business worth that he's worked for 25 to 30 years at when he dies and he's gone? Nothing. I mean, unless you can find somebody to buy the customer list and jump in, you're still only going to get pennies on the dollar for that. He just worked his whole life for that, and in an accident died, and she lost what was hoping to be the rest of their retirement plan. Because the $600,000 wasn't going to get them all the way there. We already know we need more than $1 million to be comfortable, right? If you own a business and you are planning on retiring and you are planning on using your business as a way to retire, you need to start thinking about this sort of stuff. Do it now. The insurance will cost way less. The younger that you are, the less likely you are to die, right? That would be key person insurance. Now let's talk about Mary. Mary's making a killing. She's got money on the side. Her husband, who's been a CPA, let's say, for the last 25 years, he makes 50 or 60 grand a year, but he's really dependent on her retirement nest egg and her selling off her consultant business so that they could go live the life. By the time she does all that, based on the numbers we saw, she could easily have $2.5, $3 million, and they can go live off in Bora Bora and drink Mai Tais on the beach the rest of their life, right? But same thing happens to Mary. She gets hit by a bus, doesn't have insurance, and doesn't have any buy-sell agreements with her partner at work. What is her share in the consultant business worth when she's gone? It varies, right? I mean, depending on what kind of business it is, but if she has all the intellectual property and the other person's the salesperson of the group, there's still some value there. But they do $900,000 a year, so if she gets half of that, and you just value it very simply, now you'd need a business evaluator to tell you exactly what it's worth, but if you just evaluate it at 1 times annual revenue, that business is worth $900,000. So her share is worth $450,000. Her husband is going to go to that partner and say, hey, look, this is a hard time, Mary's gone, I want to get her share out of the business now. Can you cut me a check for $450,000 and we'll be good? No way, right? Nobody's going to reach in their pocket and go, yeah, you got it. Sure, I'll just keep on with the business. I'll get somebody else in here. There's all the business continuity is lost. The likelihood of that person to be able to maintain that kind of revenue on their own is lost. They're going to have to bring somebody new in and train them or get really lucky selling the business. Now it's not worth the same that it was before. But if the two of them got together and set up a buy-sell agreement, which is a legal agreement. You're going to need an attorney like Chris Corpus, who does a lot of buy-sell agreements, so I understand, to help you put this together, funded by a life insurance policy. If we're partners, I buy one on you, you buy one on me. That way when I die, if I die, you get the death benefit, and now you have the funds to pay my family out, right? So now you own the business 100%. My family got paid out, and I didn't screw over my kids and my wife so that they got to go back, my wife's got to go back to work at 60 because I didn't plan this properly, right? It wouldn't be that expensive to set this up, but it would save you some tremendous heartache. Nobody wants to think about something bad happening to them, but like in Tom's case, worked 25, 30 years building up your landscaping business, busting your hump, bad accident, you know, you don't even have to die, right? For this to happen, for the business to be worth nothing. So if those of you in the room who are small business owners and haven't thought about some of this stuff, how you would transition if something happened to you, how you plan to get the worth of your business out of it, you know, to say, well, I'm going to sell it. It's going to be a huge success. I'm going to sell it. Good luck with that, right? There aren't a whole lot of people waiting in line to give you what you think is worth, your business is worth. You know, your time and energy went into that, all your blood, sweat, and tears. Most of us think our business is worth a little bit more than maybe it actually is, right? And if you're in a position where you need to get the money out of it, the person on the other end all of a sudden has all the leverage in the deal, right? They know that. They're not going to offer you what you think it's worth. So, key person insurance, buy-sell agreements, a cross-purchase agreement and redemption agreements are just different types of buy-sell agreements. It just depends on who owns the insurance, really. That's how it works. But think about these things, you guys. The younger you are and the smaller that the business is, the less expensive that it is to set it up. And you can always reevaluate, and every year you should. You know, do I have enough insurance coverage to get out of my business what I want to get out of it? Any questions on that stuff? These are just the objectives of a buy-sell agreement. I think people sometimes underestimate the second bullet point, the market and liquidity. It's that situation where Mary dies and her husband's just going to go get the 450 grand out from her partner. Like, they better have a lot of money, you know, and be really generous if you think they're just going to cut a check for 450. People underestimate that a lot. Provides continuity and the death benefit, of course. Okay, last part. I got like 4 minutes, I guess, before I go over. Now you've saved all your money and you've protected everything. You've got this nest egg. You don't just start peeling off the top and writing yourself checks when you retire, right? You get your Social Security income coming in. Maybe you got a pension coming in from another stream. But you want to figure out a way to take that money and get as most mileage out of it as possible. Now, I'll just give you a figure. I don't want to say it's been proven, but the math has been done, and it holds pretty much true that if you take a withdrawal rate of 4% of your money, no matter how much money that is, let's say you got $1 million and you take 4% of it, $40,000 a year, for a length of a 30-year retirement and just get average returns, you should keep almost the entire principal intact over the course of 30 years, right? So the number is 4%. Now that varies on timing and how much, you know, actual return you get. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's kind of a good baseline. If you're doing some math in your own head, like how much of this can I pull out? Start with 3 or 4% to be conservative is a good spot, right? But it's from an investment standpoint, and there is no secret to getting rich. You can do some things to help stay rich once you get rich. Fixed income investments, bonds, right? A big company wants to build a new warehouse. They don't have the money to do it. They ask shareholders to put up some money in agreement. They're going to give you an interest rate. You know, every year we're going to give you a 5, 6, 7% back on your money, and at the end of the term we'll give you all your principal back too. That's just income coming into you. You'll get a check every quarter from, you know, XYZ company. That's essentially what a bond is. Bonds have varying degrees of risk, of course. A more risky bond is going to pay you. So just because you say, oh man, they're offering a bond, they're going to pay me 13% a year. You can't get that. Well, I'm paying you 13% because there's probably a little higher likelihood of the fact that that company isn't going to be around for so long, right? They have to take risks, but there's a lot of that out there. You know, use an advisor or somebody to help you pick these things. Dividends from stocks, this is the Warren Buffett way. I mean, simplification at its best. Buy huge companies, they pay dividends, right? Whether or not the market goes up or down shouldn't even be a concern to you. Take your dividend. A company like AT&T, I didn't look at it yesterday, but they pay like a 5.1% dividend. You buy AT&T stock, you hold it for 20 years, the likelihood of it going up is probably pretty good, right? And you're going to get 5% every year on it, either way, whether it goes up or down. There are thousands of companies out there like that, okay? It's a conservative way to go. You can participate in the market and collect dividends. Pensions are lump sum payouts for like teachers, cops, firemen, those people that you know. They're getting offered, we're hearing a lot about that, teachers and firemen especially getting offered buyouts. Those are good. You got to understand the tax ramifications of them. Don't wait until they're offering you the buyout to know about your buyout and read your plan. You know, understand. Tell your friends and your family who have these pension plans out there to read and understand them. All you hear is doom and gloom about pension plans for a reason in the news, because they're becoming less and less and less common. They're just, the market has not been providing enough returns to keep those things afloat. And they've been poorly managed and all these other things. Lastly is annuities. A lot of time people see the word annuity and they think it's a bad word. There is a time and a place for an annuity, absolutely, no doubt about it. Fixed annuity, variable annuity, you name it. Annuity is essentially you can put your money into it, it's a product, any way you like. Every month you can put money in, all at one time you can put the money in, and at some point you annuitize it, you turn it on, and the payments start coming out, and it's agreed upon interest rate in a contract between you and an insurance company. It's that easy. The insurance company says, hey, you give us X amount of money over X many years, and you turn it on at this point, we'll give you this interest rate every year. That's great for people who don't want to participate in the market, don't want risk, right? You want to de-risk, you pay for it, sure. It costs a little more to do that. The person who sells it to you, they get paid to do that. That's fair, right? And you pay to get that guarantee every year. But it's not excessive. Otherwise, it'd be illegal, right? You can get that return in a lot of different ways. So it's not a bad word. It's good to understand what annuity is. And in a lot of cases, especially if you don't have a huge nest egg, it's good to consider it and look at the option. Because a big market downturn within the first 2 years of your retirement could put a big cut into your nest egg. And all of a sudden the money, that 4% you thought you were going to take out every year, isn't quite as much as it was, not nearly. You got a 2008 scenario, you could be down 35%. Going from $1 million to $650,000 would hurt any one of us. The last slide is just kind of a summary. Save your money. Protect your money. Do not wait. Don't sit around and go, oh, I should think about insuring myself. I got kids. You got kids relying on you, a wife or husband relying on you, and you don't have insurance, you're crazy. You got $50,000 worth of insurance, you're crazy. That will last them, your funeral, right? It's not that expensive, especially the younger you are. Look into that stuff. And then lastly, meet with your advisors, your CPA, for one, financial advisor, talk to them, go online and read up. Understand what your options are and how you're going to start turning those savings into income when you get down the road. This is where we spend 90% of our time with people. A lot of people do a great job making money and saving money, and then they have no clue what to do with it when it gets to the point that they're ready to kick it in Florida for the rest of their life. Any questions? I appreciate your time, everybody. Hope you have a good day.